Welcome to the DRS Zone, our deep dive segment. If you follow Formula One, you know the basic qualifying rule, right? Fastest lap, you bolt on the softest tires available.
Yeah, that's the playbook. Maximum grip, maximum theoretical speed. It's F1 101, very much.
But then came Baku qualifying recently, and that whole playbook, well, it just got tossed out the window.
It was really strange to watch. I mean, top drivers, experienced teams, actively choosing not to use the fastest tire, the C5 soft. They went for the medium instead.
Exactly. It makes zero sense on the surface.
Right. And it's not just some quirky strategy call. This points to something much deeper, an engineering puzzle, really. The big question everyone was asking, you included, I bet, was why? Why would the faster tire suddenly be the wrong choice for that single all-out lap?
That's what we're diving into today. You really have to pull back the curtain on Baku itself, the circuit, and the almost impossible demands it places on the cars and tires. We've been looking through a ton of analysis, engineering reports, telemetry breakdowns.
All the good stuff.
Yeah. And our mission here is to give you the shortcut, the aha moment that explains why this happened. Why softs failed, why data isn't always enough, and why sometimes consistency is just plain faster.
Absolutely. Because potential speed, well, it doesn't mean a thing if you can't actually use it reliably.
Okay, so let's start with the track itself, Baku, because the analysis really points to the circuit as the root cause here.
It does. You look at Baku on a map or, the track data, and it seems pretty straightforward in parts. You've got those incredibly long straights. Technically, that puts it in the medium to high category for overtaking chances.
On paper, yeah.
On paper, but the reality on the ground, or rather on the asphalt, is totally different. The environment, it just amps up the risk factor hugely.
You mean the walls being so close, the white lines maybe being slippery after the rain on Saturday, the sheer speed into tight corners?
All of that. It's a street circuit, fundamentally.
Oh.
High-speed blasts followed by sharp 90-degree corners, often with zero runoff. If you push to the absolute limit, a tiny mistake isn't just losing a tenth.
It's potentially hitting the wall, ending your session.
Precisely. And that massive consequence, it instantly flips the equation. Suddenly, it's not about finding that last tiny bit of raw speed. It becomes about consistency, about driver confidence, about just getting the lap done cleanly.
Which brings us squarely to the soft tire trap.
Yep. The C5 compound, the stickiest rubber they had that weekend. Theoretically, it might offer, maybe 0.2 of a second advantage over the medium? That's the peak grip potential, the absolute fastest the car could go.
But its fragile potential, very perishable.
That's the absolute key. That tiny advantage, that 0.2, it exists only within an incredibly narrow operating window. And getting the tire into that window in Baku, almost impossible according to the analysis.
Why? What makes it so hard?
Well, the ideal prep lap, the warm-up, needed to be about 1.5 laps long. That's what the engineers calculated, because the Baku lap itself is so long, 6 kilometers.
Okay, so one standard warm-up lap wasn't enough. Tires still too cold.
Exactly. They'd be underprepared, not quite switched on.
Yeah.
But if you tried to do 2 full warm-up laps...
Too much. They overheat.
Way too much. The tire temps spike, and the soft compound starts to degrade, to decay, before you even start your actual flying lap. So you're losing performance before you've even begun.
So you need this perfect split lap preparation. Hit it just right.
Yeah. And that's incredibly difficult to manage consistently, especially with the soft tire being more sensitive to overheating anyway. Think about it. If that peak grip only lasts for, say, 3 or maybe 4 kilometers.
But the lap is 6 kilometers long.
Right. You're guaranteed to lose grip, lose that consistency, probably in the final sector. The tight, twisty castle section where you need absolute precision and confidence.
It sounds like trying to thread a needle at 200 miles an hour. The target window is just too small, too hard to hit every single time.
That's a good way to put it.
Which leads to what I found maybe the most surprising thing in the reports. Even with all the data, all the sensors, why couldn't the teams just figure out how to hit that 1.5 lap target consistently? I mean, these are the best engineers in the world.
Oh, and this is where we hit the data gap. It's kind of shocking, but F1 teams actually have less real-time, reliable data than you'd think, especially for the most critical part, the tire surface itself.
Okay, break that down. What do they measure? What are the sensors telling them?
So they rely heavily on internal sensors. TPMS, that's the tire pressure monitoring system. It gives them air pressure inside the tire and the temperature inside, plus the wheel rim temp. They also have internal infrared sensors.
Pointing where?
Pointing at the inner carcass of the tire, measuring the temperature there. And that's basically the best live data they get during qualifying or a race.
The grip the actual performance, that happens where the rubber meets the road, right? On the outside surface.
Mhm.
The bit that's actually generating the heat and sticking to the track.
Exactly. And that's the limitation. The internal temperature isn't the same as the external surface temperature. Analysts point out that the true external surface temp, the really critical number, is only measured properly during dedicated testing days.
When they have those big sensor rigs over the tires?
Yeah, those big external bridges packed with sensors. But during a live session, those are gone. Can't have them.
So during qualifying, they have to correlate. Basically guess.
That's pretty much it. They have to estimate or correlate the critical external temperature based only on those internal readings. It's like trying to know the exact temperature of the pavement outside by just looking at the thermostat inside your house.
You get a rough idea maybe, but not the precise surface reading.
Exactly. And when the performance window is as razor thin as it was for the softs in Baku, even a small error in that correlation, that guess, is enough. It can mean going from slightly undercooked to completely overcooked tires in the space of one long straight.
And that wipes out the tiny potential advantage of the softs. Makes it a gamble.
It burns away that peak grip potential. Precisely. Suddenly, the risk outweighs the reward.
Wow. So the engineers, in a way, are flying a bit blind on the most critical performance variable during the session. That puts a huge amount of pressure back on the driver's feeling, doesn't it?
Absolutely. Which brings us to another really interesting point from the analysis. Driver preferences. Why did some drivers, like Carlos Sainz was mentioned, actually prefer a used medium tire? Not even a new one. Why would rubber that's already been through a heat cycle be better?
Seems counterintuitive again.
It does, until you bring in a bit of physics. There's a principle called hysteresis.
Okay, sounds technical.
It is, but the concept is key here. Hysteresis basically means that the current physical state of a material, in this case, the tire compound and its ability to generate grip, depends on its past state. Its history matters.
So what the tire has already been through affects how it behaves now.
Exactly. Think of it like warming up your muscles before you exercise. A muscle that's been properly warmed up, maybe cooled down slightly, and then brought back to working temperature is often more stable, more predictable than one being stretched hard for the very first time.
Right, okay.
A used tire, one that's already gone through a full heat cycle getting hot, then cooling down tends to be more stable and consistent when it gets back into its operating temperature range during the next run.
So the used medium offers more predictability, even if the absolute peak grip might be slightly lower than a brand new soft.
That's the trade-off they were making. The analysis stresses that the consistency gained from that stable, predictable, heat-cycled medium tire was worth far more in Baku than chasing that tiny, unreliable peak grip from the softs.
You sacrifice the ultimate theoretical speed for confidence. Confidence in the braking zones, confidence the tire won't just suddenly fall off a performance cliff halfway through the lap.
Especially on a track where confidence is paramount and mistakes are punished so severely, it becomes a pragmatic choice driven by the high-risk environment.
And that choice, it really underlines how much driver style and feel still matter, doesn't it? Because the report said teams gave drivers very specific instructions for the outlaps. Target lap times, specific effort levels in certain corners.
Yeah, incredibly detailed instructions. Target lap time, say 1.56.
Yeah.
Maybe 70% effort through turn 1, ease off slightly here.
Yeah.
Telemetry guiding everything.
Yet, even with all that data, teammates sometimes chose different tire strategies. One goes medium, one tries the soft, that proves it right. Ultimately, it comes down to the driver's ability to actually hit that target prep lap perfectly, and crucially, their own confidence in how the tire feels underneath them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The plan from the engineers is one thing, but the driver has the final say based on feel. We saw Max Verstappen, for instance, take pole on the mediums. Reportedly, that wasn't even his first choice for qualifying compound initially.
Oh, consistency won out.
Consistency and confidence trumped theoretical peak performance. If the soft tire feels edgy, inconsistent, if you doubt it even slightly on a track like Baku, you go with the tire you trust, the medium in this case.
This whole intense focus on nailing the tire window, on finding consistency over peak, it actually connects to a much bigger strategic shift happening across F1 right now, doesn't it? It's about where the teams are putting their resources.
That's a really important point, yeah. This laser focus on tire prep and mechanical setup, it's partly a symptom of the massive strategic pivot towards the 2026 regulation changes.
How so?
Well, historically, as the sources point out, the big gains in F1 always came from aerodynamics. If a team needed to find lap time, They'd throw resources at a new floor, a new front wing, a big aero package update.
Because that could find you huge chunks of time, right? Half a second, maybe more.
Exactly. And because those big aero gains were available, things like fine-tuning mechanical setup, suspension details, understanding the absolute nuances of tire prep. They were important, sure, but maybe lower priority. Why spend months finding a tenth in mechanical grip if a new wing gives you 5/10?
Okay, I see.
But now, teams are pouring resources, wind tunnel time, CFD capacity, engineering brain power into designing the completely new cars for 2026. That means less capacity, less budget for major upgrades on the current cars. It's effectively like a soft freeze on major aero development for many teams.
Ah, so if they can't find big chunks of time from new wings and floors anymore.
They have to look elsewhere. They're forced to scramble for those marginal gains, the smaller improvements they might have previously deprioritized.
In areas like suspension setup, differential settings.
And critically, mastering tire preparation. Getting the tires perfectly into that narrow window, understanding hysteresis, making the correlation guess more accurate. Suddenly, these areas become absolutely crucial for finding performance. The difference between winning and losing now might lie in perfecting that prep lap, something that might have been secondary a few years ago.
So the difficulty in developing the current cars forces them to get much, much better at optimizing what they already have, especially the tires.
Precisely. It's a classic case of constraints driving innovation, or at least driving focus. Because the number one path to lap time big aero updates is restricted, the second and third priorities, like mechanical grip and tire science, become the main battleground. The reports suggest teams are actually learning more about their current cars now than ever before because they have to explore every single detail for performance.
That's a fascinating takeaway for anyone listening. Limitations can force you to develop expertise in areas you might have overlooked. Okay, let's wrap this up then. This deep dive into Baku qualifying really hammered home a key point about Formula One. Theoretical speed, that potential 2/10 from the soft C5 tire, it means absolutely nothing if you can't reliably get to it.
Yeah, if it's locked away in an operating window that's too narrow, too difficult to hit consistently, especially on a high-risk track.
The winning strategy wasn't about chasing that unstable peak. It was about mechanical stability, understanding the physics of the tire with hysteresis, and ultimately trusting driver confidence and consistency over a data point that wasn't even fully reliable.
Which leaves us with a final, maybe provocative thought to consider. If F1 teams, with all their resources, all their sensors, the absolute pinnacle of engineering, still struggle to perfectly correlate internal sensor data to the actual real-world performance of a tire surface.
What does that tell us?
Well, what does that tell us about all the other complex, high-stakes, technology-driven fields out there? It suggests there's always going to be a gap, maybe an unavoidable one, between the data we can measure and the physical reality we're trying to control. There are always hidden variables, unpredictable factors at play.
A really interesting point to chew on. The limits of data, even at the highest level. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into F1 engineering and strategy here on the DRS Zone.
My pleasure.
For more expert analysis giving you the inside track, make sure you subscribe to the DRS Zone. We'll be back soon with another deep dive, getting you quickly up to speed on the most fascinating topics.